Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers Kieran here, and it's trail shoe time. We have got the HOKA Speedgoat 6 going up against the HOKA Tecton X3. In their last iterations, the differences between the Speedgoat 5 and the Tecton X2 were subtle, but both shoes have been seriously overhauled for 2024. There's a whole new look to the Tecton X3 here, with new gaiter-style uppers, a punchier dual-layer PEBA midsole for a more aggressive, faster ride, and that means it's now a whole different ball game to this Speedgoat 6. So which of these shoes might suit you better for your trails? Well, we've put in the test miles in both shoes, and we're here to help you work out exactly that. So let's get into our HOKA Tecton X3 versus HOKA Speedgoat 6 review. So some quick details in the first up, stack height. In the men's, the HOKA Speedgoat 6 and the HOKA Tecton X3 share the same stack height. Got 40 mils in the heel, 35 mils in the forefoot. In the women's, the HOKA Tecton X3 packs 1 mil extra under the foot. Both shoes have a 5 mil drop. The Speedgoat 6 weighs in at 10 ounces or 283 grams in my UK men's 8.5 test shoe. The HOKA Tecton X3 comes in lighter, under 10 ounces at 9.6 ounces or 273 grams. When it comes to price, the HOKA Speedgoat 6 will set you back £140 or $155. The HOKA Texton X3 lands at a considerably punchier price, £220 in the UK or $275 in the US. Shoe comparison then, well, past generations of the HOKA Speedgoat and the Tecton X shared a lot of the design DNA, but HOKA's speedier carbon trail shoe, the X3, now cuts a more distinct path. The most notable changes come up top on the Tecton X3 with these new flexible matrix uppers. You've got an extended gaiter-like collar for a one-piece booty fit. The Tecton X3 heel package also has much less structure than the more traditional Speedgoat that you've got here. There's not much by way of a heel counter in the X3, and the padding is limited to 2 race-style internal pads. The Speedgoat 6 overhaul was much more subtle. There's a lighter, new engineered woven upper with an internal support chassis to improve the hold and security. The Speedgoat 6 also sticks with the more traditional medium padded heel collars, stiffer heel counter here with an external heel clip, and you've got wrapping gusseted tongues here as well. Both shoes have what's called dynamic vamps, these stretchy bits across the top. The Speedgoat 6 dynamic vamp isn't quite as big or as flexible as the one that you're going to get on the Tecton X3, a potential factor for foot swell on ultras. The midsoles are now majorly different too. The Tecton X3 midsole deploys a dual layer PEBA foam with a winged parallel carbon fibre plates that aim to enhance stability. The Speedgoat 6 has a new compression moulded EVA foam formula that's lighter and aims to be more responsive and durable. The Tecton X3's speed-focused rocker looks marginally steeper than the rocker on the Speedgoat 6. When it comes to the outsoles of these two shoes, the HOKA Speedgoat 6 has a regular Vibram Mega Grip rubber covering with 5mm multi-directional lugs and a different updated lug pattern. The Tecton X3 has Vibram Mega Grip light base outsole with shallower 4mm lugs.
So when it comes to the fit of the Tecton X2 and the Speedgoat 6, got the same size in both, which is a UK 9, US 9.5. It's the size I have across the HOKA range, and they're both shoes fit me very well. In general, I get on very well with HOKA's fit because they're quite narrow, and I have quite a narrow foot. So yeah, the fit's very good for me in terms of length and hold around the midfoot and heel. I was worried that the gaiter on the Tecton X3 would be quite annoying, but actually I've quite liked it. It doesn't make the shoe harder to get on. You can pull on it to get the shoe on, and then it has quite a nice cozy feel to it. I've not really been running on any kind of loose surfaces like sand or dusty rocks or anything like that would need a gaiter, but I didn't mind it when I was running on surfaces that didn't require it. So although I was a bit worried about it annoying me on the run, that hasn't been the case. Yeah, the fit's been very good for me with both shoes in my normal size.
So when it comes to fit, both of these shoes fit kind of classically HOKA really. They're quite snug, quite fairly narrow kind of toe boxes. I think this HOKA Speedgoat 6 comes up a little bit narrow, particularly sort of into this sort of toe knuckle areas here. There's a bit less kind of flex. They hold really well. I mean, that's the one thing you're definitely going to get. You're going to get a secure, locked-in fit, particularly across the midfoot. If you like a lot of wiggle room in a trail shoe, I think with HOKA, you want to either look at going half a size up or even looking for the wide shoes if they have an option in wide. But I got good lace lockdown. I felt very secure on the bed of both of these shoes. Now, the one thing that really surprised me though is the HOKA Tecton X. I didn't expect to like this kind of booty fit. I have a real struggle getting in with big high insteps to get into booty fit shoes, and I was fearful that they'd be really uncomfortable. I find them a little bit claustrophobic. I just struggle to get them on my feet sometimes. I did that with the Alpha Fly even. But these actually, there's lots of stretch and flex in these collars. And there's lots of sort of flex as well in this sort of what would be the tongue area. And it means they're really nice and easy to get on. And once they're on, actually they fit really nicely. I think, like a dream, they're actually a really comfortable fit. I feel well held. The only thing I will say is I would probably like a little bit more structure back into the heel collars, where everything, there's a little bit more support would be very welcome. You definitely get that from the Speedgoat 6. So if you find you need heel support from a more structured heel collar, you're going to want to go Speedgoat 6 on this, because they definitely offer more of that. But overall, I think I tend to run true to size in HOKAs, unless I'm going to do a longer distance, in which case I would definitely consider going half a size up for ultras, or if you want a roomier fit.
So in testing, I've done a good mix of miles in the HOKA Tecton X3 and the Speedgoat 6. A lot of that has been on the more runnable rolling terrain that I have access to here in London and the New Forest. There's groomed compacted paths, forest floors, fields, grassy meadows, that kind of thing. The kind of off-road that you can kind of attack when you're running. I have a few miles of road to reach these trails too, so I've tested the road to trail credentials as well. I also had the chance to hit the trails in Chamonix here in the Tecton X3 around the UTMB for some testing on the steeper, stonier ups and some more rapid and technical descents, but it wasn't a long run that, but did give me a good impression. Now the HOKA Speedgoat 6 treads the line between road and trail really well. It's great on the compact, runnable, groomed off-road, but I think it can also handle the more technical terrain as well. I think there's a good balance to this shoe. It's protective, connected. I find it just about precise enough in terms of the platform you're running off. I describe it as a workhorse trail shoe that lets you amble or attack the run with a happy reliability. It balances protection and stability with a lightness and control, enough precision to take on the technical stuff, but enough cushion to eat up a mix of road and trail over the long haul too. It's a kind of shoe that I would happily do a longer trail ultra. Meanwhile, HOKA has transformed the Tecton X here. It's now much more fun, lively and energetic, and a markedly better shoe for running at tempo on less technical, more attackable off-road. It performs really well on the kind of road where you want agility, grip, protection and security, but you're able to move with freedom. On some of the steeper stuff that I did in Chamonix, those descents that were a bit more tricky, where gravity's dragging you down, I found it wanted a little less liveliness, a bit more control. It was a bit too punchy, and I'm not the most gifted downhill runner on steeper and more testing trails, and it was just a bit too aggressive for me by comparison. It's a wilder shoe than the Speedgoat 6.
I've done a lot of running in both of the Tecton X and the Speedgoat 6. They're two trail shoes that I really rate right up there as some of the best ones I've tested this year. But whereas the Speedgoat 6 I think is a bit of a refinement of the Speedgoat 5, but mostly quite a similar shoe, the HOKA Tecton X3 is something quite new. It's very different from the Tecton X2 and something that's different to everything else HOKA has made for the trails, I'd say. That's all down to the PEBA midsole on the shoe, which is very bouncy and also really protective. So you get a really enjoyable and comfortable ride, and your legs definitely benefit from going long in the Tecton X3. I found, like, I did a very up and down run in Scotland with them, of lots of downhills, the kind of run that would normally shred my quads, and actually my legs felt pretty good in the days after the run, which is not really the same with the Speedgoat. You know, I have used probably on harder surfaces than the Tecton, so I was using it running in Gran Canaria on quite rocky surfaces, but you know, when I did a hilly run there with 4 times up and down a fairly long hill, like, my quads definitely felt it. They were pretty much shredded the next few days, and the midsole just isn't as soft and comfortable as the one on the Tecton X3, because you've got that kind of standard EVA foam that HOKA has in its trail shoes. Like, it's not a bad foam at all. It is still pretty comfortable, but you know, the PEBA in the Tecton X3 is definitely a level up, both in terms of comfort and bounce. However, the benefit of that firm midsole on the Speedgoat, it is a more stable shoe than the Tecton X3, I would say. So it's a very reliable shoe. You can land on it anywhere, you know, catch the edge of things and just feel pretty comfortable and secure that you're not going to go tumbling over or get moved around too much, whereas the softer foam on the Tecton is definitely less stable. Like, and I noticed it at the end of long runs, and I'm starting to tire. You can just feel your foot going a little bit on cambers and stuff like that. Like, it's not really a problem. You just got to focus a bit more, and it's probably something that will be fine for experienced trail runners and things like the mountains. But you know, for someone like myself who's not a big trail runner in terms of mountain environments, like, the Speedgoat is kind of the safer shoe, the shoe you can just rely on to catch you as you're coming down hills and support you well, whereas the Tecton X3 has a livelier ride for sure, but it does come a little bit at the expense of stability. Also, say you've got better grip on the soft stuff with the Speedgoat. Like, it's got slightly more kind of piercing lugs on the bottom of the shoe compared to the slightly broader ones on the Tecton X3, which I think are built a bit more for rocky surfaces and, you know, doing long runs with lots of hard sections or even road sections in them, as you might face in ultras. Like, Speedgoat is obviously an ultra shoe as well, but I think the lugs do have a bit more bite for soft ground. You know, when I was up in Scotland on soft ground in the Tecton, it wasn't really a big problem for me, but as someone who spends a lot of time in the mud in the UK, I think the Speedgoat just has a little bit more bite for those kind of surfaces. I think it actually might be something that's slightly different with the Tecton X 2.5, the kind of prototype shoe that the elites use a lot. I think that has slightly more dialed in grip or more bite for it for soft ground, but with the X3, I think it is still a very good shoe that grips on a really wide range of surfaces, that outsole, but I think the Speedgoat is a little bit more comfortable on soft ground. So yeah, overall, an enjoyable run test in both of those shoes. The Tecton X3 definitely has the more notable and lively ride. It's bouncier, it's more fun, it's definitely more protective for really long runs. Speedgoat 6 is, I think, more of a versatile trail shoe that is comfortable, still quite light and nimble, feels a bit close to the ground, gives you a bit more ground feel, but it is still pretty comfortable. It has really good grip, but doesn't necessarily give you that spring that you get from the X3. So comes the verdict. I'd say that the HOKA Texton X3 is a better shoe in many ways, with that better foam in the midsole, like as you would expect from a much pricier shoe. But it isn't as stable as the Speedgoat, and you have to take a bit more care when running in it. I think the Speedgoat 6 is just a really good all-rounder trail shoe, the kind of shoe that I just recommend to someone who you need a shoe for the trails. You're not really sure what you're necessarily going to be doing on the trails, what surfaces you're going to go on, like if you're going to take the shoe on holiday, or you're not sure where you're going to run around near you. It's just a really dependable option that always provides pretty good grip, is always pretty comfortable, is light enough to go fast in, but also comfortable enough to go long in. It's just a very dependable shoe that's easy to recommend to a massive band of runners, I would say. Whereas the Texton X3, I think, is a bit more niche, not just because it's so expensive, but it's also not quite stable. It's a shoe that you really need to have a plan for. If you're going to go out and do these incredible races on mixed terrain, massive ultras, that kind of thing, where it really excels, it's going to do that really well. It's got an amazing ride. It's really fun to run in, but it's not a shoe necessarily that you'd recommend to loads and loads of runners like the Speedgoat 6 is. So for someone like myself, for example, as much as I love the Tecton, I think it's a more fun shoe to run in. The Speedgoat 6 would be the better option. It's the shoe I'd pick out of the two, because most of my trail running is just training. Or if I'm racing, it's on soft ground. It's like cross-country races where I might use spikes or a really lightweight shoe. And the Speedgoat 6 is just a shoe to kind of use throughout the year, hoover up miles. It's comfortable, it's fun to run in still. It's not quite as fun as the Tecton, but it still does the job really well. And the only thing I'd say about it is that I'd maybe look at buying the Speedgoat 5 instead, because I do think they're quite similar and it should be available in sale and stuff like that. Tecton X3 is a step up on what we've seen from HOKA before. It's definitely a better shoe than the Tecton X2, I would say. Much more lively and springy and protective with that PEBA midsole. But yeah, it's a more niche shoe. It's a very expensive shoe. If you are an experienced trail runner, able to handle the slight instability there and take it up and down mountains and do epic races, then it's the shoe to go for of the two for sure. But unless you have that kind of plan in mind, I think the Speedgoat 6 is just a better option, because it's more practical, cheaper, and just works well on all terrains for all levels of runner, I would say.
Verdict then, and these are both good trail shoes. I like running in both of them. The Speedgoat 6 is responsive, reliable, well-balanced workhorse. It offers great versatility and range. It's good across the pace spectrum, I find, and at most distances, from easy plodding ultras to faster, shorter training miles. I think it's a really accessible trail shoe as well if you're just coming on new to the trails and you want something that's going to be really nice and versatile. The Tecton X3 is a whole lot livelier, it's more aggressive, it's bouncier, it's more fun, but not necessarily something that I think everyone will be looking for. Much could depend on the terrain you run and your off-road ability. If the Speedgoat is safe and reliable, then the Tecton X3 is a bit more erratic. More gifted, steep technical trail descenders might be able to control the Tecton X3 better and get more out of it on trickier terrain, but for those of average trail ability, I think the punchier ride is definitely better suited to the less challenging routes that you might run. I think examples like I did, like the New Forest Marathon, where it's kind of a mix of trail and off-road and you can really run it. I think this is a great shoe for that. Now in the past, the choice between these two shoes would definitely have been an either or. You wouldn't need both shoes in your rotation, but the rides are now distinct, and there's an argument that both the Tecton X3 and the Speedgoat 6 could find a place in your lineup if you're on the trails a lot. I think the Tecton X3 is the more exciting of the two, a lot more fun, but if I had to choose one shoe, I think the Speedgoat 6 caters more to the miles I'm likely to cover on the trails. That 80% of kind of slower, easier efforts that make up my running. However, if you're looking for a racy, speedier edge for really runnable adventures, trails that you can really attack, I think the Tecton X3 definitely delivers, and it's probably worth the extra outlay. So there you have it, that's our head-to-head between the HOKA Tecton X3 and the Speedgoat 6. Hope you found it useful. Drop us a like if you did. If you're not subscribed to the channel, we'd love you to do us the honour of hitting that button. Ring that bell as well if you do that. That will mean that you'll hear about videos when they land on the channel. If you want deeper dives into these two shoes, I'm going to put the reviews up on the channel now. Go get stuck into those. Otherwise, thanks for stopping by, and until next time, happy running, people.